I love LA, but you won't catch me in a Dodger cap. I'm too IE. All I remember is walking the streets of Thailand, blasted, just obliterated. The devil looks at an addict and says, if I can keep him addicted to porn and alcohol, he'll self-destruct. I had no intention on telling these stories to anybody, let alone a 4 million subscriber channel. God told me, you know, you don't know what I can do with your story. You don't know who your story can help, so just let it ride. There is a high percentage chance that I was drugged. Jeffrey Dahmer, I played a prisoner. A power plant went down. There was a radiation spill. Our ship was the first ship there to provide rescue and food and clothes. And man, what an experience, bro. We're driving through the water and I can see houses and cars and telephone poles floating through the water.
What's poppin'? It's your boy Moses, aka Nomo, chilling right here in the Lit Out Studio. Got a very special guest in the building. I got Mr.
Tony Cota. What's going on, man? I appreciate you for having me. Grateful
you.
to be here.
Yeah.
Excited to talk with you. Tony Cota, I'm from the IE, from the Inland Empire.
Appreciate you pulling up all the way from the IE. So, you know, our little podcast, little platform right here. You've been on huge podcasts before, and I'm excited to share your story with our fans and the people who love to watch our interviews. This episode is sponsored by Pios Picos Tacos, located on 3410 Ontario Ranch Road, Suite 2 in the city of Ontario, California. Open 7 days a week from 10:30 to 9 p.m. Embark on a flavor-filled journey at Pio Picos Tacos, founded by SoCal native George Tamayo. Their commitment to quality and authenticity shines through every dish. From mesquite grilled meats to house-infused flavors, their menu is a celebration of family recipe. Remember, savor the flavor at Pio Picos Tacos, where every bite is a taste of tradition. I had the pleasure of actually going to Pio Picos Tacos right after UrbanCon. Me and the cameraman Jackson, man, we showed up. I ordered a burrito. We got some great food. The service was amazing. The food was incredible. I highly recommend checking out Pio Picos Tacos in the city of Ontario. Make sure you guys give them a follow. Check them out. Real delicious food. Now let's get back to the show. But first and foremost, welcome to Southgate. The first and last time you're ever going to be in Southgate, because the only time people come to Southgate is to be on the Lit Out podcast.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I've drove through a couple times, but this is definitely my first stop.
You know, we actually met probably like a month or two now. Met at UrbanCon. Shout out to Kicks the Legend and Kobe on the Mons and Bam for having us at UrbanCon. But I actually got to interview you right off the stage after you just performed, dog.
That's right.
I was watching you perform, and you know, a lot of people perform, dog, and shout out to them, right? But I saw you perform, and I was out there live streaming, right? You go watch the video on YouTube, you guys out there. But I was live streaming, watching you perform, and I was like, you know what? I have to interview this fool, because you had a bar or something about, like, you know, rapping and being sober and stuff like that.
That's right.
So that's how we met. But before you got sober and started rapping about that, who were you before that?
Before sobriety, I don't think I really knew who I was. I think I was constantly searching for that. I think I was lost in my addictions. You know, when you're lost in your addictions, you really don't know who you are, because you constantly put on a mask, you know. And I think that's what I was doing for many years. I was partying, you know, just looking for the next party, looking for the next drink, looking for the next female. Just lost in my addictions, lost in my pain. And not looking face to face with who I was in the mirror. You know what I mean? Just constantly putting Band-Aids over things.
Let me stop you right there real quick, because I'm sure you get this a lot. Speaking about looking in the mirror, you know, people look at the outside. All my life, people have been thought I was white, right? But I'm Mexican, full-blooded, right? But I get that sometimes, where like they think I'm white until I start speaking Spanish. You for sure have been getting like, who's this white boy, right?
White boy, yeah.
But tell us a little bit about your ethnic background.
Yeah, most of my family is Hispanic. My mother is white. She's Dutch and I think German or something. Blonde hair, blue eyes.
Okay.
My father is Hispanic, but he's also mixed too. You know, my family's very, very mixed. But as far as the culture that we grew up in, definitely Hispanic. You know, my father was Hispanic. He was doing his thug thizzle in the street. A lot of my uncles are Hispanic, cousins Hispanic. A lot of the men that I looked up to at a young age spent a lot of time in prison, you know, ran Southside. So I grew up around it. I grew up around the culture. And then even further into my life, I married a Hispanic, and her whole family's from La Puente. So always been the white boy in the Hispanic family, always. Whether it was my family or my wife's family, that's me, man.
Where did your dad grow up?
Bloomington.
Okay.
Yeah, most of my family grew up in Bloomington, Colton, San Bernardino, Fontana area.
Okay, so you're a real like IE baby.
Real IE baby, yeah, man. I was born in Fontana. I went to elementary school in Colton. I lived in the Dino for a few years. As I got older, spent a lot of like my middle school time in Fontana. I started high school in Fontana. I moved to Las Cruces, New Mexico when I was 15.
That must have been crazy.
Yeah, completely started over there. Complete culture shock. I went to school there for a couple years, and then I came back to California, graduated in Riverside, La Sierra High School.
Okay.
After high school, I joined the Navy, so then I'm all over again. After the Navy, came back. I was living in Corona. Then I moved to Anaheim. Then I started, tapping in with Orange County for a while, and then now I'm back in the IE. I'm in the IE now. So
The IE feels like home for you?
definitely, yeah, the IE is home. I love LA. I love working in LA. I love going to LA for things like this, for video shoots, music videos, movies. But I don't think I would ever live in LA. It's a little too fast, a little too crowded.
Right.
The IE is a lot more slowed down, chill. You got your different pockets of areas. I know the IE very well, born and raised, so the IE is my home for sure.
You did mention acting and going to LA for work. You were also in like the biggest Netflix series at one point in time, right? You did come out in the Jeffrey Dahmer,
Jeffrey
right?
Dahmer, yeah, I was on there. I played a prisoner, episode 9, in the chow hall.
Yeah.
Like everybody knows this scene. It's a scene where he's playing with his chicken, and he's talking about how he used to cut off his people's fingers and play with them like this. And right when that happens, there's a prisoner sitting across from him, kind of just dogging him, and that's me.
Yeah. That's crazy, dog, that you were in that show. But I definitely want to get into like all the big and greatest things that you've been into, and maybe shine some light on how other people maybe that have the same aspirations to be like you and like act and stuff like that. We're definitely gonna get into it. But at first, I definitely want to get into the beginning for you, dog. Tell me something about like something like as far as like your early childhood. How was that?
Yeah, my early childhood. I know that you watched some of my other interviews,
Right?
And there's one in particular where I really went into depth on that. My early childhood was kind of strange, man. I grew up with a stepfather. My mom and pop split when I was 1, so I don't even have memories of them together. They split when I was 1. My dad ended up moving to Las Cruces, New Mexico right away, and I stayed with my mom. And I would visit my father, during the summer growing up. So that's how I have my roots in New Mexico. But I had a stepfather from the age of 3 to like 13, who is my sister's father. And he was really like, even though I knew I had my dad who lived in New Mexico, I was brought up to call this person dad, and he was he was my stepdad. He was my father figure. He was in the home with me every day. And he was abusive. He was physically abusive and verbally abusive. So I was, basically bullied at home. He kind of like took out his anger on me. He never was mean to my sisters. He took everything out on me. And my mom has always been a very hard worker. So, a lot of her hours were spent at work, and a lot of times she was unaware of what was going on at home. And there's no special way to put it, man. He was just a bully, bullied me as a kid. And then I think that turned me into a quiet and timid kid. So it was hard for me to make friends in school. I didn't trust a lot of people, I was quiet, I wasn't outspoken, kept to myself. So not only was I bullied at home, but then I started getting bullied in school too. So that, of course, made me definitely go into a shell, go into a place of hiding. And I just grew up real quiet, man. I was very much in my head as a child. And my mother, she instilled God in me at a very young age. So I remember being very young and praying and talking to God and just kind of being in my own element. And like all this stuff that I do, the music, the acting, the modeling, none of this came out until I was like 28 years old. All through high school, Nobody knew me as a rapper or even a guy that played around with rap. I was quiet. I wasn't very confident. So all of the stuff that I'm doing now is like a complete 180 from who I was as a child. And you could hear it in my music. I speak on it. The music is a reflection of a lot of different things I've been through in my life. So that was me at an early age, man. I didn't really start to like figure out who I was and kind of find my mojo until like the middle of the high school, and unfortunately that's when I started drinking and experimenting with drugs. And I thought that I found myself in that, you know what I mean? Like once I started drinking, I started to realize, oh dang, I got all this confidence in me. I could talk to girls. I got all this swagger in me, but like it wouldn't come out until I drank, you know what I mean? And so once I started drinking and partying, I really clinged on to that lifestyle, because prior to that, I was quiet. I didn't have friends. I was picked on at home, picked on in school, didn't have girlfriends. So once I started drinking and I started hanging out with the cool kids, I started playing football, I really clinged on to alcohol because of that. It really, it showed me the confident person that I had suppressed. But after going down a huge roller coaster of ups and downs with alcohol, I'm talking about joining the Navy, getting kicked out of the Navy, getting a DUI, being arrested in Thailand, just craziness with alcohol, always blacking out. Once my first son was born, I was like, okay, this isn't a good lifestyle. This isn't good. I got to find something different. And having my son and going completely sober, I started to realize that all that confidence that I found when I was drinking alcohol, that wasn't because of alcohol. The alcohol just brought it up. Mm-hmm. But now I'm sober. Now I have music as an outlet. Now I have like all these dreams and these goals that I had forgot about from when I was a kid, and now I can apply them and do it, through me and not through drugs and alcohol.
I have a similar story with alcohol. I feel like, a lot of people have used alcohol as like kind of like a social lubricant, right? Like you're at a party, you're a little timid, you have a few drinks, and then, you start being a little more loose, right? Loose and be able to talk to people. But it's definitely a slippery slope. And I used to love, when I was a kid, 12 years old, started smoking weed, started drinking and stealing wine coolers out the fucking little whatever, the fucking bin at the parties and shit, right? Because at a Mexican party, whether it's a baptism or whatever, there's going to be beer and drinks, right? Yeah. So I wasn't really ever bullied because I've always been a big kid, but definitely talking to girls has always been like, I do a better job when I'm drunk,
For
right?
sure, yeah.
Even to this day, people get on fucking social media a little couple tipsy and start sending messages that they shouldn't be sending, right?
Right.
But when right now looking at you, you're a pretty tall guy. You're a pretty, big guy. Like, were you always big, or did you kind of like sprout out of nowhere?
I sprouted later in life. I was always small and scrawny. I didn't sprout until like sophomore, junior year, and that goes hand in hand with like I started hanging out with kids, I started partying, and so that's when all my confidence came out. You know what I mean?
Everyone watching this should go watch the Soft White Underbelly interview that you did. It's a fucking masterpiece of an interview for sure. But you have this story about finally told your dad that your stepdad was like, trying to like bully you and punk you. So I want you to tell us that story.
When you're a kid and you're getting bullied at home, you're being mistreated by your father figure. I realized this later in life. Most kids don't know that they're being mistreated. If it's all you know, then it's just all you know. Right. A lot of times when you hear stories about kids who were mistreated or bullied at home, the first question is like, why didn't they speak up? Why didn't they tell someone? They either don't know that they're being mistreated, or they're scared to reach out and tell someone. Mm-hmm. And I think it was probably a little bit of both for me, because I never spoke up. I never said anything until I was much older and I could figure things out on my own. But there was an incident with me and my stepfather. We were in an airport, and he used to always do this thing to me where he would pull me by my ear and he would twist my ear, and he would be able to pull me in and be able to like navigate me while pulling on my ear. That was his way of like having control over me. and it freaking hurt, you know?
Right.
So he tried to do that to me in the airport. And at this time, I'm already like 12 or 13. I'm starting to get a little older. And I pushed him away and I said, I'm going to tell my dad everything that you've ever done to me. And right there in the airport, he kind of just, you know, stopped, left it alone. I finally worked up the courage to tell my dad. And my dad, I can't remember if he called my stepfather directly or if he called my mom, but he called up and he said, if you put your hands on my son one more time, I'm going to fly to California and I'm going to kill you.
Damn.
And it never happened again. My dad is big and scary.
Yeah, he's a big scary dude.
Big scary dude. Yeah.
What are some of the changes that you've noticed after your stepdad got that phone call? Like, how would he treat you differently?
The physicality, the physical, you know, mistreating stopped. It just stopped. But I also feel like we grew apart. Like I'm not gonna sit here and you know, act like that man wasn't my father figure for so many years. He was. I called him dad for a long time. You know what I mean? I was 3 years old. And there was time that this is what was like really like sinister about him is that he would play the loving stepfather role when people were watching, and then behind closed doors is when he would mistreat me. So it was almost like just sinister, like, you know what I'm saying? Like wicked. Like he would in front of other people portray this loving stepfather role, and then when no one's around, that's when he would put his hands on me. So it just stopped. But around the same time, him and my mom ended up getting divorced. So it just all kind of, everything just went away after that.
And then like when your mom was around when he was being abusive, or he also did it behind her back?
Behind her back, yeah, for sure. Yeah, my mom, you know, my mom saw little pieces here and there. And of course she would stick up for me, but she was only able to see so much. She was always working.
Eventually get to Los Cruces, right? Or Las Cruces, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about Las Cruces, man. I've never been. I have no idea what it is out there. You know, it's called New Mexico, but is there a lot of like Latinos and Mexicans out there? Or is it all?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, when I went to high school in Las Cruces, I went to Oñate High School.
Damn, crazy name.
Anybody? Yeah. Oñate Black Knights. The whole school, it was an indoor school, and the whole school was built by bricks. It was built to look like a castle, and we were the Black Knights. It was so dope.
Sick.
It was so dope.
That's crazy.
The football team wore all black, and playing football out there was like the best way to describe it. It was just like the movie Friday Night Lights.
Oh, it was like the whole town.
Football is everything. The whole town is invested. Yeah.
Shit.
Everyone knows the star players. Like, yeah. Growing up in Las Cruces was a lot of fun because it was way different from California. And at this time, I'm 14, 15 years old, got a little confidence in me, you know what I mean? And being a California boy in a place like that, you automatically have like a little edge to you, you know what I mean?
You climb the ranks already.
Yeah. But going to high school there, it was like 80% Hispanic. There was a handful of blacks and a few whites. It was very country. And this is back in like 2000, the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. So right now, Las Cruces, New Mexico has grown a lot. There's a lot more housing out there. There's a lot more businesses out there. But back when I lived there, it was still very country. Everyone went to school in like boots and jeans. All the seniors drove trucks. And coming from California, my dad always gave me a hard time because coming from California, I was like a pretty boy. At this time, I was like just getting into like dressing swagged out and having nice shoes and taking real good care of my stuff. And then I moved to Las Cruces, New Mexico, where everything is dirt. And I'm like, you know, trying to keep my shoes clean and, you know, hey, what's that? Let me like, don't get my shirt dirty. And my dad's like, bro, you live in the country now. You need to get rid of that. Yeah. So it was a culture shock. But it was definitely some of the best times of my life. I went to school with my stepsister, my stepbrother, and like 2 or 3 cousins. We all went to the same school. So
you had like family your age over there.
Yeah, that's and that was very different for me. When I was living with my mom, all I had around me really was my 2 younger sisters. I didn't have like those close cousins to go to school with. You know what I mean? And when you're somebody growing up in elementary and then the early years of high school who had a hard time making friends, having siblings in school could be a life changer.
Facts.
You know what I mean? So I moved out there at the right time. Las Cruces, New Mexico. The first thing they're going to ask you is red or green.
Salsa.
Yeah.
And what do you pick?
Green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that shit real fire? I never had it.
Yeah, there's a city out there called Hatch. You go to any grocery store right now and you could find either a bag or a can of Hatch chilies, New Mexico Hatch chilies. Like they're famous for their chilies. When you drive through the town, all you smell is chilies.
Damn.
Yeah.
But is it like, you know how sometimes people make chilies, like my mom make chilies and then it'll be like fucking tear gas in the house. Like, is it that smell, like coffee wise?
No,
it just smells like it.
It just smells like it because there's the factories around.
Is that chili like spicy?
I mean, it comes in all different levels.
Okay.
It comes in all different levels. But there's a very, very strong culture of food in Las Cruces, New Mexico.
What do you mean?
Like, you can go to IHOP or Denny's, or I think even like places like Jack in the Box, and you can order any of your plates with a green chili on top.
Damn.
Yeah, like it's a thing out there, the food. And then there's like, you know, out here we have a lot of In-N-Out, Arby's, Jack in the Box, Carl's Jr., McDonald's, like commercialized places. Out there it's like all like home owned, family owned, mom and pop shop type of things.
That's dope.
Yeah, so the food was great. The culture, you know, was something different for me. And it was cool.
You know, when I think about New Mexico, dog, to me it's like Arizona and like Nevada, where I think like desert, red rocks, you know, like Grand Canyon style. Is that the landscape? Like, where are they growing the green chilies, dog? They have farmland out there?
In Hatch, they do. In Hatch, I believe they do. But it is, yeah, for the most part, it's like red rock, desert, flat ground.
And then over there, like over here, you'll get like a little shun, or people talk shit to you if you're like Mexican or Latino and you don't speak Spanish. Or is it the same thing over there, or like they're speaking lots of English out there?
I'd say there's a little bit of both, but a lot of people out there speak Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, just because it's New Mexico, the Hispanic culture out there is very dominant.
LA culture to New Mexico culture, as far as Latinos and Mexicans, what do you think the differences are?
Oh, that's a good question. There's just a different swagger to it. You know, Hispanic culture out here is like very West Coast. Out there, it's Southwest. It's got a little different flavor to it. You know what I'm saying?
Like cowboy twang, you know, a little bit?
Yes. More, yeah, for sure. More cowboy style. You see a lot of cowboy boots, tight jeans, cowboy hats, a lot more of that.
They got like cholos out there and stuff?
For sure.
Lowriders and everything?
Yep, lowrider culture, cholos, yeah. East Siders, South Siders, yeah.
Oh, shit, that's crazy, dog.
Yep.
I definitely want to go try okay, if you get chilies from the grocery store, like you said, the Hatch chilies, can you compare it to when you buy it over there, or is it like, it's not the same?
Definitely not the same.
Okay.
Definitely not the same. Like, whenever I go out there, I always try to bring some back because it's, you know, it's good.
You move back, and then you join the military. You joined the military here or in New Mexico?
I joined here.
Okay. Tell me your experience with the Navy, right?
Yeah, the Navy. Yeah, I joined the Navy right out of high school. Graduated from La Sierra in 2008 and went straight to the Navy. I really, you know, thinking hindsight now, so many years later, I really joined the Navy because at that time in my life, I didn't know what else I wanted to do. I didn't have, like, school was difficult for me. School was always difficult for me. I barely graduated, you know, had to do all the extra credit stuff at the last minute to get enough credits to graduate. So going to college just wasn't a thing for me. I didn't know my purpose in life at that time. I didn't have, you know, like solid ambitions, like this is what I want to do and this is how I'm going to do it. I really just didn't know at that time. So when the recruiter got a hold of me and told me all the wonderful things about the Navy, I was like, sign me up, because I ain't doing nothing else.
Right.
So joined the Navy. Ended up graduating number 1 in my class, as far as like A school, because first you go to boot camp for 2 months, which was in Chicago, and I was there in February, so it was negative 12 degrees, snowing. I had to march through that. I had to carry big, heavy bags through that. I had to run through that. It was crazy. Yeah, boot camp was an experience, man. I got strep throat really bad while I was there. Quite an experience. And then after boot camp, you go to A school and you learn your trade. You learn what you're gonna do, you know, once you're in the field. And I was aviation ordnanceman, which is the crew that maintains and loads the bombs, missiles, torpedoes onto the jets.
Damn.
On the aircraft carrier. So I ended up on the USS Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier, CVN 76. Shout out to them, anybody that might be watching. And I was on the aviation crew, and I graduated #1 in my class, which was a trip because coming out of high school, I did horrible in high school. And then I get to this place, and I guess I just found, you know, what I was learning to be more interesting. So I graduated #1 in my class, which gave me the option to choose where I was going to be stationed. They gave me a few different options, I think like Virginia, Japan, and then San Diego. And to this day, I kind of wish I would have chose Japan, but I chose San Diego because I wanted to be close to home. And everyone tells you, like, don't go home because you just came from there. Like, you're going to go back to doing the same stupid stuff you were doing before you joined, et cetera, et cetera. Or you're going to be close to your family and it's going to make it hard for you to leave. You know what I'm saying? So I chose San Diego. I was stationed in San Diego. And that's exactly what happened. I would go home every weekend, party with the same friends I was partying with in high school. I'd go home every weekend, stay with my mom and my sisters. And that wasn't good. You know, it was like I just joined the military, the U.S. military, but yet I'm still like living and acting like I'm in high school with the same people. You know what I'm saying? So I never really gave myself enough separation, I don't think, to like grow at that time in my life. But we ended up doing, the ship that I was on did a couple different tours. So I did end up having to leave, you know, twice on tour. And we actually, I don't know if you remember, but in 2011, March 11th, which is my mother's birthday, March 11th, 2011, there was a magnitude 9.1 earthquake in Japan.
Oh, the tsunami.
The tsunami, which was the 4th largest earthquake ever recorded. The earthquake caused a tsunami. A power plant went down. There was a radiation spill. Our ship was the first ship there to provide rescue and food and clothes. And man, what an experience, bro. We're driving through the water, and I can see houses and cars and telephone poles floating through the water.
Oh shit.
I donated clothes off my own back to send to those people there. We sent them food and clothes and medical response. And then once the mission was over, the basically the president of Japan came onto our ship and thanked us, which was crazy because, you know, back in Pearl Harbor, we nuked Japan. And now you fast forward and they're coming and giving us thanks for helping them. That's crazy.
Were you guys able to get off and be in Japan, or you guys were trying to just stay on the boat?
Yeah, we did end up going to Okinawa, Japan, and we were able to get off and enjoy ourselves there, get some food and whatnot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you been back to Japan since?
No, that's the only time. Yeah, I would love to go back. I like Japanese culture a lot. I like the food. Sushi's probably like my favorite food ever.
Yeah, sushi's bomb for sure. You were eventually discharged, dishonorably, honorably. I'm not really sure what the difference is, but tell me what happened in that situation.
Yeah, I ended up getting a general discharge, which it goes honorable, which is the highest level, and then it goes other than honorable, and then it goes general, and then it goes dishonorable.
Oh shit! So there's four levels.
Yeah, so I was given a general discharge, which was a blessing, honestly, because I was a knucklehead, and I got in a lot of trouble in the military. But when I was on the ship, when I was on duty, when I was in uniform, I was squared away. I was a good sailor. I did what I was told. I was where I was supposed to be on time. My hair was always right. I was always shaved. My boots were always shined. No issues at all. When we pulled into foreign ports and we were let off and we were able to drink, that's when it was a wrap for me. That was when I turned into a different person. And that just goes to show, you know, how how much of a negative effect that alcohol has. I mean, it really turns me into a different person, a completely different person. When I was in the military, I was squared away. I got awards at home right now from the military and stuff. And that's why the captain ended up giving me a general discharge instead of a dishonorable, because when he looked at my paperwork, when he looked at who I was as a sailor, you know, it's like, this guy's squared away. But every time he gets off port and he drinks, he acts a fool. So he did me a favor by giving me a general discharge, you know. And to this day, I'm thankful for that. But yeah, I got arrested in Thailand. I've been to Thailand twice, and I got in a lot of trouble both times that I went. The first time I went, man, I had just got to the ship. When I got to my ship, I was actually flown on because they were already like out in the middle of the ocean. So I got flown onto the ship, which was another crazy experience. And within just a few months, I think we ended up in Thailand. So I'm 19 years old, fresh out of mom's house, fresh out of high school, a party animal. You know what I mean? My agenda every day is drink, find a woman to have sex with. That was my agenda, right? And you take me to Thailand? Oh, man. Man, Thailand is like Vegas on crack. Thailand is like Vegas with no rules.
I've never heard that before, but that shit makes perfect sense.
Yeah, man. Thailand, when you walk down, so I went to Phuket, Thailand.
It looks like fuck it, but it's Phuket.
Phuket. Yeah. And when you walk down the strip, it's a strip just like Vegas, right? You walk down the strip, you have whorehouse, bar, massage parlor, whorehouse, ping pong shows, strip club, whorehouse, bar, and that's Thailand. That's the strip. And it was like, for me, being a knucklehead, being an alcoholic, being a sex addict, it was like letting me loose in the devil's playground. And the first time I went to Thailand, I was drinking all day, and by time nighttime came around, I was just blacked out drunk. Every time I tell this story, I tell people there is a high percentage chance that I was drugged, because this happens. This is known. When U.S. military goes into foreign places, you have to be careful. You have to watch your back. You have to watch your drink. Keep your hand on top of your drink. Like, there's training courses for all of this. You know, there's people that just like to mess with you. So getting roofied, right, is what we'll call it. Getting roofied in Thailand is a thing. Like, that happens for sure. By the end of the night, all I remember is being separated from my group, and I'm walking the streets of Thailand, and I'm just blasted, just obliterated. And I walk into this bar. It's a 2-story bar. There's a bar on the bottom floor, and then there's stairs that go up to the top floor. I don't know what the top floor was, but I end up wandering up the stairs, and I somehow get trapped in a room. I don't know if somebody put me in this room. I don't know if I just wandered into the wrong room and somehow the door locked. But I remember being trapped in a room, and I remember freaking out, like I need to get out of this room now. And I couldn't get out. The door wouldn't open. There was no way out of this room except for a small window. I bust out the window, and I step outside the window, and now I'm on the roof of the bar. I'm walking across to get down, and as I'm walking across the roof of the bar, the whole roof caves in, and I fall through the bar onto the floor, scratched up, bleeding, banged up. From that moment, I completely black out. Next thing I remember is waking up in handcuffs, arrested by Thailand police, and they're trying to send me back to the ship. They're trying to communicate with the ship to send me back. And got sent back to the ship. They sent me straight to medical. I remember the doctor or the nurse telling me how much alcohol percentage was in my body, which I don't remember. But what I do remember is he told me, I feel sorry for your body. I feel sorry for your organs, because how much alcohol you have in you right now, and the fact that you're even able to stand, is beyond me. And that comment stuck with me forever. I remembered that forever, because I was like insulted, but I was like, I guess this guy has a point. Like, that's not good, And so that comment stuck with me for a long time. So that was my first time in Thailand. Ended up getting sent up when you get in trouble in the military, you got to stand in front of the captain and the lieutenants and all kinds of scary people, and you got to plead your case, and they want you to stand there nervous and scared, like they're talking to you like you are nothing, they're talking down to you, they're like really drilling you, so that's never fun. I had to go through all that. Based off what I did, falling through a roof of a bar, getting arrested in Thailand, they could have kicked me out of the military right then and there. Again, blessed, gave me a chance, didn't kick me out, sent me to AA, sent me to anger management, and put me on restriction for 60 days. So it's 60 days restriction and 60 days extra duty. When you're on the ship and you're on restriction, you wear a badge with a big R on it, and it has your number of how many days you're on restriction. Typically, you see people with like a 15, a 20, maybe a 30 if they did something crazy. I was the only person on the ship with a 60 on my badge. The only I would walk through the hallway and people would be like, "Damn, what'd you do?" And I'm not joking. "Oh, you the dude that fell through the roof."
Yeah, that's what you were known as.
Yep. Yeah, I kid you not. The whole ship knew about the guy that fell through the roof.
How many people are on the ship?
Anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000.
God damn, that was a small city.
Yeah, it's a small city. That's what they call it, city on water. Yeah. So my badge said 60/60, 60 days of restriction and 60 days of extra duty. So I missed Singapore. We drove into Singapore. I couldn't get off the ship. I was on restriction. I missed another place too. I can't remember, but I missed a couple fun places because I was on restriction. Even when we went back home to San Diego, I still couldn't leave the ship. I had to stay on the ship for my whole 60 days. So then a year later, we ended up going to Thailand again. And by this time, all my disciplinary stuff had fell off. I'm good. Like I could do whatever I want. I can go to Thailand. I'm not on restriction no more. Go to Thailand again. And once again, I'm still a knucklehead. Me and actually a handful of people from my division came up with a way because we're not allowed to stay out. We have to come back at night and sleep on the ship, and then we can go out again. We came up with a way to have one person sign us all in, but we stayed out, on the ship. And we got away with it that night, but the next morning they found out. So they sent out a message to so-and-so, and so-and-so sent out the message to me, and they're like, "Yo, the gig is up. They know none of us are there. We got to go back today." I'm like, I already got in trouble in here last year. When I go back to the ship, I'm done. I'm done. So I'm cool. Y'all go back. I'm going to stay another night and get my fun in while I can. So I didn't go back, even after they called for me. So now this is really bad. Now I'm MIA. A U.S. military sailor is now nowhere to be found in Thailand when he has orders to return to his ship immediately. And I stayed a whole nother night.
Damn.
And me and all my boys, we got us some hookers, went back to the room, did our thing. We went white water rafting. We went and rode on elephants. We went to the bars. I didn't fall through no roofs this time, but lived it up, man. And I'm not proud of, none of that hooker stuff. I'm just telling you the story. Got back to the ship, and the captain was like, "You know what's coming, right?" He's like, and I remember this. At this time in my life, like, I thought that I was ready to go home. I thought, I obviously can't get right here. I need to go home. And so subconsciously, I wanted to go home. I'm gonna be honest. I wanted to be sent home. I was done with the military, and I'll never forget. The captain looked at me and he said, "Do you want to go back to Riverside?" Because that's like, when you look at my paperwork, they could see that that's where I joined out of, was Riverside. So he looked at me and he's like, "Do you want to go back to Riverside?" And I just stayed silent, didn't even answer the question. And I think he took that as a yes. So got my general discharge. I don't even know why he gave me a general discharge. He had every reason to give me a dishonorable. I think that was God,
When you see other military men, or like it's like Memorial Day or Veterans Day, How do you feel about that?
That's a great question. And I'm going to tell you, for years after I got sent home, for years, I forced myself to completely forget about my time in the military. I acted like it never happened. I was very disappointed in myself. My family was let down. You know, people in my family were rooting for me because I was, you know, I went through, just real quick to give you, like, from 15 to 19, because that's like the time of my life where I was acting a fool. From 15 to 19, I was always drunk. I was always chasing girls. I was experimenting with drugs. And my family knew that I was the knucklehead. Like, everybody knew, oh, Tony's a knucklehead. Like, nobody took me serious. You know, nobody ever thought that I would go to college or achieve anything. Like, I was the knucklehead in the family. And so when I joined the military, they were like, oh, wow, he's doing something good. We're really proud of him. So when I got kicked out, I took it really hard, and I was hard on myself, and I just forced myself to forget about it. I didn't even take none of my paperwork. You know, you can request your paperwork, take it with you. I didn't want none of my paperwork. I didn't want nothing to do with the military. And, like, even my mom, she would call me Navy Boy. That was like her nickname for me. It was in her phone and everything. And for years she kept calling me that. And I would tell her, like, Mom, please stop calling me that. I'm not in the Navy anymore. And that time of my life is gone and forgotten. I really forced myself to forget about it. I'd be at professional basketball games or football games, and they say, well, you know, we'd like to have all our military veterans stand. I wouldn't stand, bro. I didn't claim it because I was so disappointed in myself. Not until recently, literally this year, I just finally had a change of heart, and I went to the VA office, because when you're a veteran, there's all kinds of benefits out there for you, different, you know, grants, medical benefits, compensation for this, that, and the other, and I never looked into none of that. And finally this year, I went to the VA office, and I, you know, went to see what kind of benefits I have available for me and whatnot. And I finally just kind of sat down with myself and said, you know what, you did well in the military. You have awards, and you moved up in rank, and you were part of a huge rescue mission in Japan, and you did 2 tours to Afghanistan during wartime. And I had to look myself in the mirror and say, be proud of that. Yes, you messed up. Yes, when you were drunk, you messed all that up. But being sober now, I kind of get to fix that now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's crazy.
So now,
you're right though.
Yeah. So now moving forward, and actually for the first time ever, this Veterans Day, they asked people in church to stand up. I was in church and I stood up, and I felt good about it. Like, you know, I did that. I did accomplish that. I messed it up in another area of my life.
Right.
But now I'm working on that area.
You know, sometimes for me, like, I just gave up alcohol, and you know, alcohol has ruined a lot of things for me, right? Whether it's past relationships, it's put a strain on my relationship with my parents, it's put a stunt in my growth as a man, you know, as far as like being able to like provide. Sometimes I'll get fired from jobs for different shit, you know. And when you're an alcoholic like that, I'm a binge drinker, you know. I could finish a bottle in a night. I don't drink every day. When I was drinking, it kind of like feels like I can't give up alcohol because it's such a big part of my life. But I was also doing great things. I was going to work, taking care of my son. But like that fucking shadow of the alcohol, you know, like it feels like I can't get rid of it. It's part of me. I have to learn to live with it.
Yeah.
And now that it's kind of like just like completely away from my life, you know, I don't drink anymore. I'm like, damn, dog, like, why didn't I do this sooner?
Yeah.
You know, type shit.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that drinking is it starts off fun, but it's a slippery slope, you know.
Yeah, and it's hard when it's a part of your culture. Hispanic culture. I mean, my dad gave me my first shot of tequila. Like, it's almost like tradition. Like, come here, boy, have a shot with your dad. Like, yeah. But then you grow up and you realize, like, Dad, that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
You know? And it's hard. You go to every family function, and, you know, I noticed how much it's a part of culture and family when I first started my sobriety journey. I would be at family functions with certain people, whether it was my dad or an uncle or a cousin, and when that conversation goes dry and there's nothing for y'all to talk about. But if y'all were going shot for shot, y'all would have everything to talk about, you know? But for people who are, really trying to live that sober life, I think that that's just a barrier you have to break through, and you can, and you will break through it.
Yeah, I thought it was impossible for me to stop drinking, dog, because I was always known as like, I never throw up. I could outdrink anybody. You know, I'm a bigger guy, so like I could easily outdrink people and shit like that. I've always been known to be that guy buying bottles at the fucking club. I went through that whole phase and everything. So, you know, I recommend it for anybody out there trying to stop and thinking they can't do it, don't have any confidence because they've never tried it before.
Yeah,
I would highly recommend it.
yeah.
Now, also, like, you're an alcoholic, like former alcoholic, right? But you're also a sex addict. I think a lot of people, it's a common, especially with our phones now. You know, back in the day when I was also born in, graduated in 08, so we're the same age. Back in our day, it was hard to watch porn. You had to download an hour-long video on Kazaa or whatever, LimeWire, and it'll take like 3 days to watch one video. Or like you go on some websites and it'll fuck up your computer. It was a mission to get video porn, you know, unless you're watching like old school Playboy magazines, right?
Yeah.
But tell me the beginning of your like your sex addiction. Where did it all start?
My sex addiction started at a young age, around 14, 15 years old in Las Cruces. This was when I was living with my pops. And something that I mentioned on the Soft White interview was that, like, living with my mother, she was very strict. She kind of kept me in a bubble, you know, so to speak. She monitored what kind of music I listened to, what kind of movies I watched, where I went, who I was with. And then living with my pops, it was a little more lenient, you know what I mean? So that was when I kind of started to indulge in certain things. But when I was living in Las Cruces, New Mexico, I lost my virginity to a 36-year-old woman when I was 15. And this woman was our neighbor. She was our neighbor, and she was the mother to the kids that we played with on the block. And that happened. Oh man, it just happened. It just happened one day. Went over to the house to see if the kids were home. The mom answered the door, said nobody was home, and she barely spoke any English, but she was able to, you know, communicate enough. And nobody was home, but she invited me into the house and said you could wait, you know, for them to be home. So I walked in and immediately sat down on the couch in the living room, and she's like, "No, you come in the room with me." So I walked in the room with her. She said, you know, sit down on the bed. She sat me down on the bed. And at this moment, once I'm in the room and she's having me sit down on the bed, I started to figure, like, okay, this isn't normal. This is like what's going on, you know? But I'm 15, you know, I'm young, I'm curious. And so she sat me down and she put on a pornography. She put on a porno, and she asked me if I liked it. I told her, yeah, I like it. And then she laid me down and did me a favor, you know. And she explained to me that that the kids and her husband would be home soon, but if I wanted to come back later that night, that she would show me more. So I did. I went back later that night. She snuck me in, and that's how I lost my virginity to an older woman. And she kind of became that addiction that lasted for a few months. You know, I kept going back to the house for more, and she was showing me things. You know, she opened that door for me. She opened that door of sexuality, lust, and pornography. She opened that door for me. And then from there, you know, at the time I was a kid, and I thought it was cool, thought it was something to brag about. But you know, fast forward many years later, you start to realize that you have addictions, and you start to wonder where these addictions came from. So you start to, you know, go backwards in time. All right, how did this happen? How did this start? And for many years of my life, I just completely forgot about that, like it was something normal, you know. And like there was never no alarm that went off in my head, like, oh, what just happened? This is crazy. I just thought it was normal.
When that happened to you, did you like tell somebody about it right away, or
just one of my cousins that was the same age as me, and
what did he say or she say?
Thought it was cool, you know.
Did those kids ever find out?
I don't know.
Okay, so it's not something that you guys got caught doing? Or
No, there was never got caught. She got caught. She got deported. She ended up getting sent home.
Is that why you guys stopped?
I think so. it's hard to remember. Either that or maybe once I moved back to California. I don't. There was never like an incident that caused it to stop. I just remember it slowly fading away. Like, you know what I mean?
Did you feel weird about being around those kids after you've like, you know, been with their mom?
No, I don't.
Yeah,
think,
like no awkwardness or regret. You didn't feel like shameful around them?
Nah, I don't think so. I just kept it to myself.
Damn, it's fucking nuts, dude.
Right, it is, and for so many years I didn't think it was nuts. I just thought it was a normal thing that happened in my life. And then when I started to realize that I had a porn addiction and a sex addiction, I'm like, okay, let's try to figure out where this came from. And I swear, it's like one day I was like, oh yeah, this happened.
You know, a lot of people, when they start off smoking weed at a young age, they start stacking shit. Like, oh, I'm high and I'm a drink. I'm high and I'm gonna pop this pill. Like, they start stacking. I call it stacking. I don't know if it's really called that or not, right? But like for you, was there a stacking phase when it came to sex? You know, there's some people that like choke themselves or like to get hit or do some crazy shit when it comes to sex. Was yours just porn and like fucking every girl you can find?
You know, when you've done things in your past that you're not proud of, I don't think there's not a lot you can do to fix it. There's not a lot you can do to go back and fix something that you did. I think that you have to fix yourself, and let that be the representation of okay, he's different, he's changed, he's a better person now. You know what I mean? And that's what I try to do. I have a family now. I have a wife and a son, and I have a baby on the way right now.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you. And you know, so I'm fixing myself. You know, there's definitely friendships that I've ruined in the past, and I don't have any desire to go back and try to fix them. You know, what's done is done, and what's in the past is in the past. I'm focused on fixing myself currently, and continuing to better myself as I get older and older.
I like that, because, you know, me too. I've definitely ruined relationships doing this and that, and you know, you can't really help anybody until you help yourself first, right? You got to be in a position to be able to stand on your toes by yourself to even reach back down and help people. You know, it's a crazy story, because we were talking a little bit off camera how like I did music for like a year, right? I tried, because I had a record label, I had a couple different artists. We were all in the studio. Everybody wants to rap, everybody wants to be a star, everybody wants to make music. So I kind of fell in love with like the idea of becoming a rapper, right? Getting all this like glory and fame. It's a very expensive hobby. Eventually I gave it up, because I just figured out, like, you know what, I'm not that good at this. But when I listen to your music, especially your new track, right? It's called Journal. What is it called?
Journal Entry.
Journal Entry.
Yeah.
That's a fucking badass song, dog.
Thank you.
Listening to that song, you know, I definitely get the vibe of you love to rap. You're not in love with becoming a rapper. You feel me?
Yeah.
And you also have like a crazy real life story that you can put into these songs. And, you know, after I wrote like my first 3 songs about like bitches and cars and hoes and this, I didn't have shit to write about. So I just gave up and started leaning into the podcast. But tell me more about your musical journey, how you got started with music.
Yeah. I've always been very infatuated with hip hop. At a young age, I started listening to, I think like the first form of hip hop that I really dug into was West Side Connection and Tupac.
Okay.
Just because like those are the CDs that my dad had in his truck. You know, once I started searching for different genres, and so West Side Connection, Tupac, very, you know, West Coast. But then I also started dabbling into like East Coast artists, like Nas, Biggie, Eminem, and I became very infatuated with like just lyricism, like the art of lyricism, the art of bar work, the art of rhyming and wordplay was just like very intriguing to me at a young age. I would study it, and without knowing, like subconsciously I would like try to memorize the lyrics, and I got really good at it, right? But for a long time, and of course like music was like my escape at a young age when I was getting bullied and stuff. But for the longest time, as much as I was into hip hop, as much as I was infatuated with it, as much as I studied it, the thought of me becoming an artist never crossed my mind, ever. It would be like, you know, imagine somebody who's physically fit, strong, knows how to read plays, knows how the NFL works, knows how the playbooks work, knows everything about it, but then like never tried to play it himself. You know what I mean? It's like you have all the tools, you've studied all the tools. Like why don't you hop in there? You know, it was never like that for me. I was too distracted and not confident enough in myself. So I literally started rhyming in my head when my wife was pregnant with my son. We weren't married back then, but when she was pregnant with my son and I was working graveyard, I was stocking shelves at a grocery store, and they would always put me on the aisles, and they would have me like face the cans, make them all face the same way, right? Because I was really good at it, because I would like take my time and make it look perfect. So they would always put me on the aisle by myself, and I'd be doing that, just up and down the aisle, just facing cans, right? So when you're doing something boring like that for hours at a time, you really get in your own head. And I started noticing that I was playing around with rhymes, right? And I would start to put rhymes together, and I'd start to come up with like bars, and I started to notice that I was kind of clever. And this is how much self-doubt is a real thing. And if you don't conquer self-doubt and find confidence within yourself, it will keep you in your place, and it'll keep you from chasing your dreams. I started to slow down at work because I was constantly rhyming in my head, right? And then I'd snap out of it, and I'd realize, oh shoot, I've been in the same place for 10 minutes. I haven't done any work. So I started to tell myself, you need to stop. You need to stop with this rhyming thing. It's just a phase. But then I would keep doing it, and I'd keep doing it, and I started to really pay attention. And I'm like, the rhymes that I'm coming up with and the creativity that I have, like, this is dope. And it was all organic. You know, I wasn't like reciting other people's rhymes. I was coming up with my own stuff. And again, I kept telling myself, you need to stop doing this. This is not realistic. You're not going to rap. You're not going to all of a sudden at 28 years old become a rapper. You're not going to do that. Stop doing this and focus on your job. I told myself that. And long story short, the rhymes wouldn't stop. I'd be laying in bed, can't sleep at night, and I'm just rhyming in my head. And remember, at this time, this is my first time going down the journey of sobriety. So I'm clean. I don't have no alcohol in my system. I don't have no weed, no drugs. I'm completely sober. And when you're somebody that has clinged to a vice from the age of 14 all the way to your late 20s, you're always high, you're always on pills, you're always drunk. Your mind is clouded, and you can't really tap into what's already in there, you know? And so when I became sober, all those vices were gone. My mind wasn't clouded anymore. I was closer to God. I was deeper in prayer. And these rhymes just kept coming and coming in my head. Finally, one night I'm laying in bed and I couldn't sleep, so I picked up my phone for the first time ever in my life. Picked up my phone and I started writing down what was in my head. And I just wrote this long rhyme. And at the time, it was just like bars. It was just clever rapping. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't really saying anything too deep or purposeful. I was just rhyming, but I was impressed with how good it was. And so now I start going on this journey of self mastery, of finding myself and figuring out why am I having these rhymes in my head. So I started reading a lot of motivational books. I was reading the Bible. I was deep in prayer. I was into running a lot. I would run miles a day, completely sober. I went through a sober high. I went through a spiritual awakening, like some people like to call it. I started receiving signs everywhere, signs kind of just leading towards like, yeah, you could do this. You can be an artist. You could write music. And little by little, I started to dabble into it. I would freestyle in the car when I was by myself. And then fast forward a few months, I'd been messing around with rhyming and stuff. And I was at my neighbor's house at the time, my homeboy Sosa Rose. He's from Long Beach. At the time, we both lived in an apartment complex in Victorville, and I used to chop it up with him all the time, chill at his house and talk music and whatnot. And one night, there was a group of people there, and Sosa, he's an artist, he's a rapper, real talented, and a couple of the homies were there, and they started freestyling in a circle. And when the circle got to me, like I said, I hadn't told anybody that I was, interested in rhyming, or that I had, had these rhymes in my head or nothing. This was kind of like my first opportunity to like do it in front of people and see what happens. So I freestyled in front of these people for the first time, and my homeboy Sosa, he reached over and he stopped me. He let me spit for a while, but then he reached over and he stopped me, and he said, "You can rap." And he reached out his hand and he shook my hand and he said, "If you really apply yourself to this, I promise you, you can rap." And I've never seen somebody so sure that they saw something in me that I didn't even see. I'll never forget that moment. I've brought it up in podcasts before. I'll probably always tell this story. That was the first time that somebody gave me verification that you can do this. Because prior to him telling me that, it was just in my head. You know what I mean? It was just my head. It was just a thought. And from that moment forward, I started taking it very serious, and I never stopped ever since. And I had a couple other homeboys that I would reach out to. I had a homeboy named Trey. He's from Pomona, and he lived up in Victorville at the time as well. And he's an older cat, he's like the big homie. And he used to rap back in the day too. So I took this so serious that I started to reach out to certain people and kind of just like tell them like, yo, I think I'm going to pursue a rap career. Because it was so bizarre. Like, I'm telling you, nobody in my family, nobody I went to high school would have ever thought that I would start rapping. So when I made the choice, and I've always been a very all or nothing person. Like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, me too.
So I mean, bro, I sat down with my mother. I respect my mother. I love my mother. And I wanted to bring this to her and tell her, like, Mom, I think I found a gift in me that I didn't know was there. I sat down and had a conversation with my mother. I sat down with my homeboy Trey, and I told him, because he used to be a rapper, and then I just went full throttle with it.
Do you think when you sat down with your mom or your friends, were you looking for like their acceptance or their blessing, or you just kind of wanted to kind of warn them that you're about to go on this journey that you probably have no idea what way it's gonna go? Right?
I think it was more of a warning. Well, like my homeboys, like Sosa and Trey, I was kind of looking for guidance. Mm-hmm. Like they've been here, they've done this. I was kind of looking for guidance, like big bro support. But like with my family members, when I sat with my mother, I called my dad on the phone. I told him. I sat with my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and I told her. I think that I was kind of warning them, like, look, this is going to seem crazy. It's going to seem completely out of left field, but I'm going to pursue a career in rap.
You have this bar, I'm not sure if it was a cypher or like a mic video, where you said, like, you're doing things that it took 5 years to do in 8 months.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that, dog?
Yeah. Yeah, so from the day, and I remember the first time I went public with rapping, it was are you familiar with Royce the 5'9"? Mm-hmm. Yes, one of my top 3 favorite artists. Royce the 5'9" had a track out called Bobla Boat featuring J. Cole, and he did an Instagram challenge for it. And I went to a couple homies' pad, and I sat in their garage and I had them record me rap over this beat, and I must have messed up like 35 times, bro. We had to keep doing it over and over and over. But shout out to the homies. They stuck with me and they made sure I finished it. That was the first time I ever went public with rapping on social media. And so I put that out. I noticed once I was like, I mean, from the time I started, bro, like, most people start rapping when they're like in high school or even middle school, maybe, 19, 20, 21. Bro, I was 28 when I started, right? Mm-hmm. First time ever rapping. Like, nobody had ever heard me rap before. From the jump, my rhymes were very complex. They were very technical. The rhyme schemes were unique. The wordplay was crazy. The only thing I was missing from the jump, from the very beginning, was confidence. You know, I was nervous. You know,
Right. Yeah.
I was never one to get up in front of a crowd and speak. You know, never like I was nervous.
Right.
So my nerves were there, but the rhyming, like if you listen to my first EP, King Coda EP, if you listen to that EP, the lyrics are nuts. The lyrics, the words that I'm using, the rhymes that I'm saying, it's nuts. That EP has outstanding lyricism on it, and it was my first project. But you don't hear the confidence in my voice. You could, if you listen to that today, and then go back and listen to journal entry, you'd be like, oh yeah, these are two different people. Just the confidence in my voice is different. But from the jump, I was a very technical, lyrical wordsmith. And that's how I know that this is a gift from God. I didn't just wake up one day and be like, I'm going to chase the bag and be a rapper. No, like I had to go through life. I had to go through alcoholism, sex addiction, being arrested in a foreign country, getting kicked out of the military, losing a baby to an abortion that I wasn't, ready for. Everything in my life that I went through. And then I found this gift. You know what I mean? This is a gift from God, because from the time that I started rhyming, I was dope. Basically what I'm saying is that I crammed like 10 years into like a few months.
Yeah.
And then when I hit the ground running, I immediately started branding myself. I started to pay attention to my image. What am I going to look like? How am I going to dress? I started Few Kings, which is my record label. I started making shirts and hats. I started pushing that. I started doing shows. Like, bro, I got on stage and did a show right away. Like as soon as and I didn't wait, until I had the confidence. I just went out there and did it because I knew that it was a gift from God. I knew it was God that was telling me to go forward with this. And so when you know that, you can go forward with no fear. I didn't have no fear. I know that I don't have it all figured out. I know I've never been on stage before, but I'm going to figure it out as I do it.
I have some bars that I wrote down, going through your discography on YouTube, which is just like music videos, right? It's probably not all your songs, but I have a few bars, and if you remember, I want you to tell me what they mean to you. Okay. Or what were you thinking when you wrote this, For
sure.
The enemy is me, the enemy is you. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, the enemy is me, the enemy is you. That's on Self-Sabotage. That right there is you are your own worst enemy, You are the only person keeping you from achieving your goals. You're the only person standing in your way. If you're somebody who's trying to seek sobriety, you're the only person that's stopping you from doing that. If you're somebody who's trying to get in the gym and trying to change your health, you're the only person that's stopping you from doing that. Everything we battle, every fight that we battle, it's you versus you every time. Even this is coming from someone who was sexually abused at a young age, right? Lost my virginity to an older woman who introduced me to pornography. And then later on in life, I become a sex addict. It's not my fault that happened. But now that I'm aware, it's my responsibility to overcome it. And it's me versus me. You know what I'm saying? Who do I have to stop from pulling out my phone and pulling up some porn right now? Me. I gotta stop myself from doing it. I gotta keep myself accountable. Alcohol, right? The only person that could put that drink in your mouth is you. It's you versus you. So the enemy is me. The enemy is you. It's you versus you every time. And unfortunately, the way that we're wired, we really can work against ourselves. And I don't know why that is. That's an answer I'm still searching for, but we're wired that way. Just like we're wired to be sinners. We're born sinners. We're born in sin. This is in the Bible. When you got you have a son, you said, right? Nobody taught that boy how to lie. But when he did something he wasn't supposed to do, did you do this? No. Right? We're born with wickedness in us. We lie. We're stingy. We're ungrateful. All these things, and unfortunately, we really can work against ourselves. There's like this there's this energy in us that will work against your biggest dreams and aspirations in life, and you got to fight against that. And it's really just you versus you.
Another bar that I like that might be similar is when you walk with God, you walk with the devil too.
Yeah. I believe that when you're favored by God, when God has an anointing on your life, when God has a purpose for your life, the devil knows that. And the devil doesn't want you to achieve your purpose.
Damn.
And check this out. When you're an addict, right? I'm an addict. Like alcohol, porn, weed, whatever. I'm an addict, bro. That I have an addict mentality. I become addicted to whatever it is that I partake in, right? So God looks at an addict and says, if I could change what this person is addicted to, they can be very powerful and useful for my kingdom. The devil looks at an addict and says, if I can keep him addicted to porn and alcohol, he'll self-destruct, and it'll also self-destruct his whole family.
Damn.
So when you walk in with God, you walk with the devil too.
They're on you. You're like a target.
You're a target.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah,
Like,
God,
I think you could probably write a book on just that subject, right?
Right.
There,
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
deep. All right. So another bar you have is last 2 checks read Netflix and Nike.
Yeah, I said I'm usually not the type to flex. That ain't likely. But my last 2 checks read Netflix and Nike.
Yeah, it's a sick ass bar.
Yeah. Yeah. Right before I did that cipher, I just got booked for my very first commercial, and it was with Nike. And then a few months after that, I got put onto the Netflix show Dahmer. So, you know, I usually don't flex, but I was flexing on that one.
That's something fucking, glorious and good to flex on. Dope.
Yeah.
Both dope things. Netflix and Nike is crazy. Tell me the differences or how it is to be on set for a commercial versus a Netflix series, right? I was gonna say movie. They're pretty much movies. Like, was the Nike commercial like photography or was it video also?
It was video. Yeah, it's a commercial where there's a basketball bouncing all through LA, different, like bouncing across a auto shop, bouncing across a neighborhood, bouncing across different people. And as the ball bounces, these people are looking at the ball, and then they start chasing the ball. And I played a mechanic, an auto mechanic. So when the ball bounced by me, I turn around and look at the ball. Being on set is cool, man. It's so interesting what goes into these commercials. You know, these commercials are like 30 seconds long, but it takes like a 3-day shoot to get it done. There's so much that goes into everything. The lighting has to be perfect. The angles have to be perfect. You could do a quick shot 30 times before you find the right one. Like, it's such a detailed project. Any like commercial, music video, movies, Netflix, it's all the same. It's all very detailed.
Is there a lot of downtime, like in between takes and stuff like that? Like, what do you guys do when you guys are not shooting?
A lot of downtime. People bring books, headphones, write music, draw, write in a journal, network. That was one of the biggest reasons I started doing acting, was just to get into that world, be around those people, network with like-minded people. You know, I get on set, and every time I meet at least one music artist, for sure. You know, I meet producers, I meet videographers, photographers. It's a huge networking bubble, but at the same time, it's also very small. I see a lot of the same people all the time. A lot of the producers will recognize me. Hey, I worked with you on this one. I worked with you on that one. It's a small industry, and once you get in and you networking can change your life. Networking can change everything. Everything.
I was gonna ask you, like, do you have an agent? How do you book these shoots and these gigs?
I don't have an agent. I've done everything myself. I've booked everything myself through a site called Casting Networks. I have a website there. I have all my photos, a portfolio, all my videos, and I apply every day. I'm on my phone applying to jobs every day. Every day.
Is that like something where, like, say you find a gig or whatever, you're applying, you got like professional headshots saved to your phone and you just send headshots, bio? Like, what's the little process to apply for each gig?
It's almost like a Facebook page. Like I have a whole profile. My photos are there. They're already there. So I don't have to, upload them every day. They're there. Whenever I get new photos, I just keep adding them to the portfolio. And then, I apply for certain roles, different looks. I could be on a pretty versatile range of looks. Like I've played a rock star one day, and then next week I play a cholo, a prisoner or a driver. Like this, just MMA fighter. There's all kinds of different stuff. So you can choose your photos as far as what you're applying for. But it's fun, man. It's a fun industry. There's a lot of networking involved, and I've only been doing it for a couple years, and I've been on set with some of the biggest names in the music industry, in the entertainment industry, actually.
You went like all out and got like real headshots and shit?
Oh yeah. All my stuff is very professional.
I get that vibe from you, dog. Like you do everything right and like professional and like, like legit. You make yourself, not make yourself, but you are kind of like legit with who you stepped into as far as being professional in your career path, right? Is that something that you just always had? You learned through time, trial and error? Like I've learned from getting fired from different jobs, like, hey, don't do that no more. Let's be more like this. Or was it the military? Like, where do you get this, like, I almost want to say like confidence to like, present yourself in a certain light?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it comes from my background as a person in general. You mentioned the military. I certainly still have qualities about myself that I picked up from the military. Punctuation, always looking clean. My clothes are always ironed. My shoes are always clean. My hair is always done. I'm always shaved. Like these are things that have just stayed with me my whole life. And then my father put that in me as well. My dad always made me iron my clothes. He always made sure I had a belt on, and that comes from his like prison background, And then my uncles, same thing. Like my uncles, they ran their household like extremely militant. Everyone's bed was made, everyone's clothes were ironed. So I think that stuff has just stayed with me my whole life, and I apply it to everywhere I go. So even as funny as this sounds, I apply this to even my social media. You pull up my Instagram account, and every single photo and video is high quality, good. There's no selfies on there. There's no, let me set my phone up right here and do this. Like everything is aesthetic and professional. And I think that just that's just who I am. Like you go in my car right now, my car is clean. There's not one piece of trash in my car. My wife gives me a hard time because she leaves trash in her car. And I give her a hard time, and she's like, your car is immaculate. My car is immaculate, bro.
You also had a bar. You mentioned like no LA caps, okay? Now, I don't want to incite a riot or anything, but there's a underlying underground beef between LA, IE, San Bernardino, OC, right? Everyone says that LA is superior for notoriety reasons, right? We have like the most rappers or movie stars and shit like that. And me being from LA, I'm from a city in Southgate, which is kind of has like a IE feel. Like we're like a little city in a big pond, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you wear LA caps, dog?
A couple different reasons. One, I grew up an Angels fan, so off the top, like. Okay. But you still have. So there's that. There's the baseball side of things, right?
Right.
But really, where it really comes from is just being a real IE baby, growing up in the IE. And always having that, if you're born and raised in the IE and you tell someone you're from LA, that's a no-no. You just don't do it. That's something that's extremely frowned upon. You don't do it. Like if you're from the IE, you don't tell nobody that you're from LA.
What if it's like someone from out of state? Like, oh, where you live at? Where you from?
So I've always communicated with people out of state, right? I lived in New Mexico. I was in the military. I tell them I live about an hour outside of LA.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. It's faking the funk. You can't fake the funk, and I want to be proud of where I'm from. I love the IE. I want to be proud of IE. So in the bar, I said, I love LA, but you won't catch me in a Dodger cap. I'm too IE. But that's not That's not a negative diss at all.
Yeah,
First of all, I said I love LA.
Yeah, now you gave a little bit more context.
Yeah, I love LA. I respect LA. And as a matter of fact, people who are from LA should have respect for what I'm saying, because I'm not trying to fake the funk. I'm from the IE. I love LA, and to me, I'll be the first to say LA is like big bro to the IE. You know what I mean? Like y'all did everything first.
Right.
You know, y'all did everything first. So yeah, I love LA, but you won't catch me in a Dodger cap. I'm too IE, but pay homage to those who taught me rap.
Bars.
Yeah.
You're good at this, dog. You know, like being from LA and everything, right? All I know is LA, right? Dodgers, Lakers, you know, all that good stuff. Being LA, you know, NWA, Compton's right here, all that good stuff. All the stuff that we love, right? You know, we even had Tupac for a while. You know, Tupac died when I was 6, right? I think you were probably the same age. So I thought he was from LA, dog. Not. I had to find out later that he was, you know, born in different, like New York, Baltimore, and all his whole story. Like, oh shit, he was only out here for a few months, right?
Yeah.
But I've noticed, you know, recently, I've been really fucking with the IE a lot, dog. As far as like, there's a lot of independent, upcoming rappers, podcasters, just, you know, people that are, you know, like really doing it out here and using social media as a tool to spread their, you know, their art out there. And you're one of them too, you know, getting a bigger reach. I think 20, 30 years ago, there was no way you can tell people you're from the IE or try to blow up at IE. You know, you're going to get guys like Sugar Free, right? But he's not even, that's actually LA Pomona. But I'm just saying, like, that's not really claiming LA to blow up.
Yeah.
What are some of the big changes you've noticed from before and now as far as the IE as its own, like, fucking, you know, its own thing?
Yeah, for sure. For many years, the IE wasn't even part of conversation. It wasn't even a factor. And I think now, for sure, now more than ever, there is a buzz in the IE, and people are hearing about the IE. I mean, you got Nas and Hit Boy, you know, making albums together, and on the records, Nas is shouting out the IE. You got people like Pookie F and Rude from Long Beach, who's a big supporter of the IE. Shout out to Pookie. He's always been a big supporter of mine, and I see him supporting other IE artists as well. There's now, what's happening is we've been kind of pushed to the side for so long that can only happen for so long until finally we start to boil over the pot. You know what I'm saying? And because we don't have the type of media outlets that LA has, because we don't have the big voice that LA has, the big record labels that LA has, we're forced to hustle a little harder, to grind a little harder, and to try to stand out a little more. And right now, you know what I love about the IE is that, and not to say that this isn't in LA, but because it absolutely is, but in the IE, I see a lot of like real raw hip hop, like almost underground, you know, Mobb Deep, Wu-Tang, just real lyricism, real bars. There's not a whole lot of like gimmicks coming out of the IE. You know, we're just making music, man. We're just telling our story. We're just rhyming, and it's dope. There's a lot of authenticity I see coming out of the IE, and right now more than ever, we are being recognized. We are being talked about. I've been on ciphers with big names from LA. Gina Views, she's a rap commentator, cipher creator, and I've been on her ciphers, and she's had multiple IE artists on her platforms where before I think she was only showcasing LA artists. Now you got the IE mixed in there. You know, I've been on stages put together by Chrissy, who's a friend of Gina, and another hardworking woman in LA who's opened her doors to artists from the IE. It's there's definitely a movement happening out here. And then you got OGs from the IE, Noah James, who's been doing this thing for a long time. He's always putting shows together and spreading love. And you got Hit Boy, who's obviously doing his thing, one of the biggest, you know, producers out there. It's happening for sure. It's happening.
Yeah, I definitely want to give a big shout out to the IE. You guys are doing your thing, because, you know, like me even being like only 30, 40 an hour away from there, like it almost felt before like a different country, like a different state. You know what I mean? And like now it's like, okay, I see you guys out there doing your thing. Another bar, I came out humble, but no route in that.
Yeah, I said I came out humble, but there ain't no route in that. What I meant by that is like, I think when I first started rapping, like I mentioned earlier, I didn't have my full confidence, and maybe I was a little more humble on the mic, and maybe I hadn't yet just like gave it, you know, that fire. And so there was a period in my music career where I felt like I was being too humble and I wasn't getting respected. So that's why I said I came out humble, but there ain't no route in that. Nobody, not to say nobody, but there's not a lot of respect for a humble hip hop artist. Like, this is hip hop, homie. You gotta
stick your chest out.
Yeah, stick your chest out. Exactly.
Your chest. You know, me too. Like for podcasting, like if you don't have those clips, if you don't have those topics that to kind of like, you know, to ruffle the feathers, no one's gonna really pay attention to you, right? Yeah. But I feel like there's a way of doing it to ruffle feathers elegantly, ethically, and morally, right?
Yeah.
Not just going out here saying wild shit, right?
Yeah.
Just to kind of like spark a conversation, like a cheap gimmick or trick. Like there's definitely like a finesse way of doing it correctly, right?
For sure, yeah.
Have you always written every bar? Because, you know, right now there's like a huge wave of people doing punch-ins or freestyling or just going to the studio and like not really knowing what they're gonna write about. Have you done that, or do you since the beginning, have you always been the guy to write down your lyrics?
So when I first started getting into music, when I first started practicing being an artist myself, I would freestyle. I would freestyle off the top. And I would freestyle with, you know, the homies that I mentioned earlier, Gold Mouse Sosa, and, you know, freestyle in a little circle, or I'd be freestyling in the car by myself. And then when I started to take it more serious, I started to write, because I wanted to see what I could come up with actually sitting down and taking my time and thought into something. And ever since I started writing, now I rarely freestyle. I gotta be like, it has to be the right energy, the right room, the right vibe. If I try to freestyle in the car right now, it's like I subconsciously don't want to give any energy towards it, because I know what my penmanship can do. My penmanship is far more superior than what freestyling off the top of the head is. And so once I started actually putting music out onto music platforms, yeah, everything you've ever heard from me it has been written.
You know what? I used to think hip hop has always been a huge part of my life. That's why I love interviewing rappers. Like, I wanted to be a rapper so bad, right? I love hip hop, but, you know, sometimes hip hop will, like, the media or the not the media, but like, it'll lie to you. Like, a lot of these freestyle fucking, what are the guys on the radio? The one from LA, Power 106. The freestyle guys that always make the artist freestyle up there. Just Incredible.
And Just like, Incredible, LA
Leakers,
yeah.
Bootleg Kev. All these freestyle, like I've come to realize that it's all like pre-recorded.
Oh, for sure.
Multiple takes, written raps. You're not really up there freestyling. There used to be a video of the game doing the same freestyle at 20 different radio stations.
Yeah.
And I used to think that was the hardest freestyle of all time. You know, like, you know, as I grow older, I realized that freestyling isn't really what I thought it meant.
Yeah, I think that somewhere along the line, what the word freestyle means changed.
Yes.
It used to be completely off the top, no written, you know, just go.
Yeah.
Now, like I'll upload something, and like I have on my YouTube Lemon Pepper Freestyle. I didn't really freestyle that. I wrote it, but it's a freestyle because it's over a known beat, and it's not a track. It's just a freestyle. Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think to me, like, now freestyle means that you're writing and there's no real like cadence or rhythm. Like, you're just kind of like spitting bars.
Yeah, there's no point to the track. There's you just get out there and rap.
It's really like free of style.
Free of style. There you go.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not really like, oh, this is a Drake sound, or this is how I rap right here. This is a sad song, hype song. You're just like out there spitting bars, which I think is still dope. But it, you know, I kind of felt like,
yeah, it is a little misleading.
You mentioned a story that I didn't really get any details about in the other podcast, where you got arrested with your dad one time, right?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me about that.
Oh man, yeah, I got arrested with my pops. This was such a it was like just a stupid thing. So we're at the house. We lived in Apple Valley at the time. And dang, you know what's funny is just now talking about this, man, Thailand got me in so much trouble. I brought home a laser pointer from Thailand.
Okay.
I'm talking about like a legit high-powered green laser pointer. I didn't know how high-powered it was. Me and my dad are chilling in Apple Valley, and we've been drinking, and we're messing with the laser pointer. You know, live in Apple Valley, it's pitch black out. All you see is the stars. There's not a lot of lights out. So we're playing with this laser pointer, trying to see how far it can go. This thing goes long distance, right?
Right.
A helicopter flies by, and the helicopter flew way by, far, far away. And we're pointing the laser pointer up in the air, not pointing at it. We waited until it left, until it got over us and went far, far away. But then when we go back to messing with the laser pointer, well, we accidentally hit the laser pointer. Or I'm sorry, we accidentally hit the helicopter with the laser pointer. Helicopter turns around, flies back, hovers over our house. I mean, within 3 minutes, 6 cop cars come swarming up to the property. They rush us. They're like, where is it? Where's the laser pointer? Me and my dad are like, what the? We're just playing with this little toy. What the heck is going on? So I'm like, it's right here. They're like, who was doing it? My dad was like, it was me. And I'm not thinking that they're going to arrest us for messing with a laser pointer.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm just trying to have my dad's back. I'm like, it was me too. We were both doing it. They arrested us both, took us to jail. We spent the night in jail. Woke up in the morning. They moved us to Adelanto prison.
Damn.
So now I'm like, what is going on? They're sending us to prison? We were just playing with this toy in the driveway.
Yeah.
They sent us to prison in the morning. We ended up getting bailed out on the second night. So we spent the night and the day in jail. We got bailed out, went to court, and the whole thing was just a fluke. The whole thing got dropped. They originally told us that this was going to be a major felony and that we were going to go to prison for this. And we told them, like, yo, this is crazy. We had no intention of hitting this helicopter. We had been already shining it in the sky before the helicopter showed up. We put it away when the helicopter came, and we waited till it got, further away. But apparently we didn't understand how powerful this thing was. So long story short, the whole thing got dropped to disturbing the peace. And that was it.
Damn. Don't play with lasers.
Don't play with laser pointers, especially if you got it in Thailand.
All right. So talk to me about like the soft white underbelly experience. Cause he has some legendary interviews that, he kind of focuses like on street culture and stuff like that. Right. And your interview was really good, but tell me about the whole process as far as like him hitting you up, you hitting him up. How did it go? Because I think he records in downtown, right?
Yeah. Downtown Skid Row. So I got a homeboy that I know from Solon Clothing, Matt Mohawk. Shout out to Matt. He's a good friend of mine, solid dude. He was on the interview, and so to get on the interview, you have to go through a third party. And I'm not going to say no names because I don't know if this person wants their name out there. But you got to go through a third party. It's this one guy that lives out there on Skid Row. And if he doesn't recommend you, you're not getting on the show.
Okay.
You're not getting on the podcast. So Matt knows him. So he got Matt on the show. And after the podcast is over, he'll ask, do you know any other stories out there, any other, people that would be good for the show, and you can give a recommendation. So Matt told him, you got to talk to my boy Tony Coda. He's a hip hop artist. We used to model together for Solon. He's dope. He's got all kinds of crazy stories. So Matt hit me up. He's like, do you want to be on the show? This just came out of nowhere. I wasn't prepared. I hadn't ever talked about all the things I talked about on that show. Never, right? At the time that the opportunity presented itself, I just took it as an opportunity, a blessing, right? And so I just accepted it. I said, okay. You know, a lot of times, like whether it's with music or with acting or whatever it is I'm doing, I like to watch things unfold organically. I don't like to force things. So when this opportunity came to me, I'm like, I can't deny this. It came to me. Right. You know, when there's people who literally line up at this guy's studio to try to get on his show. He has lines of people that try to get onto his show. So he said, all right, here's his number. You're gonna call him up, and you got like 2 minutes to make your story interesting. And so I called him up. I told him, you know, I lost my virginity to an older woman when I was younger. Became a sex addict. I had an abusive stepfather. I was in the Navy. I got arrested in Thailand. He was like, okay. He's like, yeah, this is great. he's like, don't say too much. Let's, you know, save it for the interview. I said, all right. So we scheduled a time. I drove down there to Skid Row, and it's just this tiny little studio right there in Skid Row, and you go sit down and you just have this conversation, and then sends you on your way with $100 bill.
Oh, he pays you $100.
Yeah, he pays you $100. Yeah,
that's probably why a lot of people line up. Huh?
Yeah, there's a lot of drug addicts and homeless that are trying to get on there. But yeah, really dope opportunity that I really wasn't prepared for, and wasn't like I had no intention on telling these stories to anybody, let alone a 4 million subscriber channel.
That's a big channel, dog.
And I tell you what, after doing the interview, I wanted to reach out to him and tell him not to post it.
Damn.
Yeah, I was so nervous. You know, I'm talking about things that I've never talked about before to thousands of viewers, and I wanted to reach out to him and tell him not to post it, but God told me, you know, you don't know what I can do with your story. You don't know who your story can help, so just let it ride. So I let it ride, and man, I was just bombarded with messages for months after. Still to this day, I still get messages from people who are watching it and can relate with, you know, some parts of my interview. And I'm glad that I did that interview. I needed that interview, because also, to anybody who's watching this, or anybody who's ever watched my Soft White interview, please don't think that I have it all figured out. Please don't think that I've reached some kind of finish line. I don't think there is a finish line. I think that anybody who's dealing with addiction, it's a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong battle. There is no finish line. You're fighting your addictions every day. Every day you're choosing to be better and do better. And me going on that interview, it kind of like, it gave me a responsibility. I felt like with all these people reaching out to me, I was like, okay, I have a responsibility now. I have to be somebody who can be a voice. I have to be somebody who can give inspiration. I have to take my story, my struggles, the things that I'm not proud of, the things I've done that I'm ashamed of. I have to take those things, I have to talk about them, and I have to show people that you can overcome them. That's my responsibility now. And going on that show gave me that responsibility. If I wouldn't have gone on that show, there's a chance that I could still partake in my addictions in the dark, because nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Now everybody knows. Now it's out, bro. You know, and it was a little overwhelming, but now I'm gonna accept it. I have a responsibility. I have a purpose. There's a purpose for my life. There's a purpose for the things I've been through. I've done a lot of things that I'm not proud of. I've done things that I'm ashamed of, and I'm willing to get on camera and talk about them so that I can continue to better myself and hopefully inspire other people to do better.
Obviously, you know, the first thing people might notice from you, other than you being tall and white, is like probably your tattoos, right? So the top three things people notice. I did notice also by watching your discography, like from the first video you posted maybe 4 years ago, the head tattoo is probably something newer than your other tattoos, right? Mm-hmm. Tell me about your tattoo journey. How'd you get them? Why'd you get them? And do they each have like an important story behind them?
Yeah, I got my first tattoo when I was 15. This is when I moved to Las Cruces. You see, we keep going back to Cruces, man. Yeah, this was when I moved in with my dad. You know, my dad was cool. He was lenient about certain things, and I actually told him I wanted to pierce my lip. You remember back in the day when people would have like the spike coming through the lip right here?
Okay.
I wanted that, right? I told him I wanted to get a piercing. He said, nah, that's weird. He's like, I'll take you to get a tattoo instead.
Damn.
So I said, all right, cool. Let's do that instead. So my dad took me to get my first tattoo. He took me, my stepsister, and my cousin, and we all got our first tattoos at 15 years old.
What was it?
My last name on my back.
And like sick. It was like a real tattoo, a real big one.
Yeah, but it was like some sloppy, lame graffiti writing. You know what I mean? At the time, I thought it was cool. So yeah, my first tattoo when I was 15, my mother flipped. You know what I'm saying? She was always against tattoos. So my mother, growing up, her stepfather was a tattoo artist.
Oh shit!
And so she always had homies getting tattooed in the living room growing up, and I think that was kind of a bad memory for her, traumatizing thing. Yeah, and there's other stories that I won't mention, but her stepfather was not a good person, and there is one story she told me that she was like 14, 15 years old, and he was tattooing some homeboys in the living room, and my mother came up and was like, "Oh, that's cool, I want one." And he grabbed her hand and stuck the needle in her hand and just gave her like a big black dot on her hand. And then she later on got it removed later on in life. But yeah, I guess she's got that traumatizing, memory of tattoos and tattoo artists. So my mother has always been against tattoos, which is crazy to look at me and to say that. But so my dad got me my first tattoo when I was 15, and then I just kept collecting tattoos after that. I do think it became an addiction. I don't know if there's such thing as a good addiction or a healthy addiction. But I think there's a lot of people who believe that getting tattoos is kind of like a therapy session or a therapeutic type of thing. Mm-hmm. For me, I think what I love about tattoo culture and about getting a tattoo is it's something that has to be earned. You have to go through excruciating pain to wear it. And there's something about that I like. I like the idea of earning this artwork that I wear on my skin. And once I sit through hours of pain and uncomfortable sessions, I get to wear it every day, and most people admire it, So there's something about that I really like. Aside from that, my dad was tatted up. He had a few tats. Uncles were tatted up, cousins were tatted up, and so obviously I looked up to that as a youngster. And then I started collecting tattoo magazines when I was like 13 or 14. Obviously being from Fontana, always looked up to Travis Barker, who's also from Fontana. He was always tatted. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Travis Barker was definitely like a big influence in the tattoo world for sure.
It's crazy how he's like in a, not emo, but like a rock band kind of, but he's like a huge like hip hop, like
very widely respected in hip hop.
He's like a presence,
A presence, yeah. And
doesn't even do hip hop.
Right, doesn't even do hip hop, yeah. And just his stilo, you know what I mean? The high socks, the Dickie shorts, the Lokes, like he's just Travis. He's got that stilo. So definitely looked up to Travis growing up as a kid, and I just love the art about it, man. And what I really love about like the timeline of my tattoos is a lot of my tattoos represent my faith, my spirituality, good and evil, life and death. And for a long time in my life, I wasn't necessarily like doing that on purpose. That's just kind of how it all got pieced together. But now I look at, who I am, what I've been through, what I represent, what my music represents, and it all makes sense. Like it's all about good and evil. It's about, being a sinner, being forgiven. And a lot of my tattoos represent that. I have a lot of, I have Jesus and Mary on the top of my head. I have the Sacred Heart over here. I have the word rise written across the back of my head, which for me is like to rise up, to rise out of, addiction, rise out of depression, rise, just rise. You know what I'm saying? It's all positive.
Damn, but like rise, because you have like some like, are you Christian? Christian?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, you have like some Christian tattoos. Like rise also like can mean like for Jesus, right?
He rose from the dead, rise for Jesus. Yeah.
What's your favorite tattoo?
My favorite tattoo. It's always such a tough question. Like right now, my favorite tattoo is I have a piece on my back of Eve and the serpent and the forbidden fruit, and that one's my favorite just because it's the biggest piece I have and it's the most detailed piece, and it looks super dope. Shout out to Nez Tattoo at Loyalty Inc. in Fontana. Shout out to Tattoo Dabs, Inception Art Collective in Riverside. Those are my two tattoo artists.
I was gonna ask, like, how do you choose a tattoo artist? Because I love tattoos, dog, but you know, my first tattoo is like, because I used to be in a tagging crew. I got my tagging crew. I got the LA buildings, and it says Los Angeles. I got my mom's name in a rose, and I got it from some fool had just got released from prison. He still had the tattoo machine from prison, and it was $20 each on Valentine's Day. I'll never forget it. I was like 16.
Nice.
You know, so they're like prison style tattoos, and they're kind of whack. You know, they're pretty bad.
Valentine's Day special.
Yeah, so I got tattoos on, and I told my girlfriend at the time, like, hey, I got 2 tattoos, check it out. And she was expecting it to be her name or some shit, and it was not. It actually says no bitch trusted on this one, to be honest. That's the kind of time I was on back then.
Yeah.
But how do you go about picking the artist and knowing, like, let's say someone gives you a price, is it like, you know, walk me through the process of picking and getting the good price for it, picking the right artist? Because I want to get tatted up again once I start getting my bread up, because I want to get good work done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, nowadays it's a little different from what it used to be. Like back when I first started getting tattooed, you would really just walk into a shop, ask if you could see their work. They usually have books with all their work in it, and you could check it out that way. And then you get a consultation. They give you a price, and then you sit there and you get your tattoo. But nowadays, you know, Instagram has made everything so accessible. So you could just go on Instagram and search for tattoo artists or tattoo shops, and you could see all their work right there. Instagram is actually how I found one of my tattoo artists. His name is Josh. His Instagram is Tattoo Dabs, and I seen a post of some of his lettering that he did, and I thought it was really dope and really unique. So I started getting tatted up from him probably like 8 years ago, and I've stuck with him, you know, this whole time. He's done a lot of my work, and he's actually now engaged to my wife's sister. So now he's family.
Fuck. Hell, you got the discount.
Get that family discount, baby. Yeah.
Hell yeah, that's dope, man. Well, you know, I really appreciate you pulling up to the podcast, bro, sharing your story with us. It's a crazy story. I'd love to have you back whenever you have anything to promote. Speaking about promoting, what's next for you? Let the people know where they can find you, and yeah, just let them know.
Yeah, I'm on all social media platforms, all music platforms. Tony Cota, TonyCota. You could follow my clothing brand as well. We just launched in September, Two Tatted Clothing Company.
Sick.
You know, it represents just the people who own that stereotype of being too tatted. So we got a full website up. We got hats and shirts. Two Tatted Co on Instagram. I just dropped a single called Journal Entry. It's on all music platforms. You can check that out. It's the first piece of music I've released in over a year. I took a year off from releasing music. Just kind of went through life, and I really feel like I've come back a different artist. You know what I mean? So I have more purpose now. So that's out, and I'm going to be putting out more singles and hopefully working on an album soon. I do have a joint album with another artist from the IE that we've been kind of working on in silence, and hopefully that'll be put out before the end of the year. So yeah, stay in tune, man. I got plenty of stuff coming.
Appreciate it, man. Shout out to all the Patrons that are watching right now, the Patreon members. Shout out to people in the broadcast channel. Remember, we're still doing the giveaway for the Disneyland Park Hopper tickets. So just jump in the broadcast channel and figure out how to win. Hey, man, good luck with the rest of everything that you got going on. Definitely going to be there to support you because I appreciate you pulling up to the pod. And that's pretty much it, man. Thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you guys later. Peace.
Yeah.